It's the 31st of December here in New Zealand. A quick look back in the year that was 2019 in terms of rugby. I'm going to put a few words in about the tournaments that I watched and talked about on this channel. Some of the games that really stick in my memory, some of the games, like in a good way, some of the games that I were kind of a bit disappointed by. And yeah, looking forward to 2020 really. It's going to be hard to match 2019 because Rugby World Cup year is kind of a tough one. And it's like 2021 is going to have a Lions tour, which is always something that piques everyone's interest as well. So 2020 is just kind of an ordinary year, which will have a lot to match up to. But it's still going to be an interesting one with all the changes around the game. A lot of new coaches and whatnot, all the player exodus happening from certain areas, guys retiring, so there's still plenty to look forward to in the coming year. 2019, I'll start with the Six Nations. Obviously, Wales got the Grand Slam. Very impressive in a World Cup year to lead off with that Grand Slam. Such a comfortable but controlled. They were never blowing teams away with the Welsh. But they just always looked so comfortable under pressure, and they were just able to sit back and eventually just hit you when it hurts. I remember that game against England, which is I've put down as my highlight, 21-13. They were down at halftime. England were looking like the team to beat, especially after the opening win against Ireland. But yeah, Wales over the course of the 80 were just too good. Josh Adams' try towards the end was phenomenal, part of the reason I put him in my team of the year. And overall the competition was great because I think in that last week it was still possible for Wales, England, and Ireland to still win the Six Nations, which is awesome. Doesn't always happen that way. So, yeah, it was a good one. Disappointing from that one, I thought Scotland's lost in France 27-10. That was a game they needed to win to stay in touch with the big guns, and they didn't get it done. So, that one was a bit of a letdown, but it was nice for me. I should say Scotland made up for it with that draw against England in the final round to retain the Calcutta Cup as well. But yeah, a really good competition for me. It's the first time I think I've watched every single game of the Six Nations. So very much an enjoyable one for me. Moving on to Super Rugby, the one that a lot of people have already given up on, but I'm still banging on about it. It's still the core competition here in New Zealand and in other countries as well. My game of that one, I'm going to go with the Blues win over the Waratahs. What a random game that in the scheme of things means nothing because neither of those teams made the playoffs. 32 points to 29. It was a close game. I went to that game. It was a pretty tight one. Like I said, the Blues did well to hang on at the end. They could have let that one slip, but they didn't. Like I said, I was at the game with my dad, so that was pretty fun. I believe it was either Israel Folau's last game or the last game he scored a try. I can't remember. But it wasn't long after that he, did his thing, and that was it for him in terms of his rugby career. Which sucks, because I'm a fan of watching that guy play. Like, I leave all my politics and everything else at the door. I just like seeing guys play rugby. Have you ever heard me talk about kind of politics and stuff on this channel? I don't do it. I just like watching rugby and talking about rugby. So it's a shame to see that guy go. I kind of feel lucky that I got to see him while he was playing. And it's a pity we won't get to see him play anymore. But that's not a statement about anything political. That's just I like to see good rugby players playing rugby. That's it. But after that game, that was the Spud game. So if you're a Blues fan, you go to one game a season, they give away some potatoes at the end of the game. So that game, Israel Folau's probably last game, and free potatoes. What more could you want in a night's entertainment? Apart from that, it was an interesting season. The Jaguares made the final, which was an awesome thing for them to finally step up and kind of reach that potential that they've always had. They've been underperforming in Super Rugby for a few years. The previous year they'd made the playoffs. This year they actually made the final. They did lose that final. The final was kind of an anticlimax. It was 19... Was it 19-3 or 19-6? Either way, it was really... Yeah, it was... The Jaguares were never in it. And, I mean, don't let me take that away from the Crusaders getting 3 wins in a row. is a fantastic effort. Like, no one will take anything away from that team, but I just wanted to close the final. So, yeah, I like close games. That being said, I will highlight a game in the Rugby Championship, which was a bit of a blow, which I kind of enjoyed. The Champions Cup, previously known as the Heineken Cup. That's been a pretty enjoyable one for me to watch as well. I certainly never used to watch that as much as I do now. Yeah, I'm a fair bit more au fait with some of the players and the teams and whatnot, kind of what their relationships are like, just by getting into it, which has been enjoyable. And you guys along the way, who are a lot more familiar with it than me, have been helping me along the way as well. So that's been awesome. Saracens won that one, a bit clouded now with the whole salary cap thing, but yeah, overall it was a really entertaining competition. There were some mismatches for sure. I think the first game I watched, and this was back in 2018 because the competition runs over both years. I think I watched like Wasps get absolutely smashed by Leinster. And then, yeah, there were some other games like the Munster draw against Exeter. There were a lot of games. But the one that really sticks out was the quarterfinal between Racing 92 and Toulouse. Like, Toulouse had a guy sent off relatively early, and they still managed to win the game away from home. The final score I wrote down, 22-21. It was a crazy game. Had red cards, a couple of yellow cards. Tries, Teddy Tomar got a try. I forget who else got tries, but yeah, it was a pretty exciting game. And the two Scottish teams, which, if you watched my video yesterday, apparently I forgot existed. Apologies, hence the gear today, which I've been wearing all day. Remind myself that those teams are part of the Pro 14. That was a brain fart moment. Anyway, they both made it out of the pool as well, which they weren't kind of expected to do, and I think it would have been the first time in a long time that they'd done that. So, yeah, that was really cool. When that competition kicks off again, resumes in January, which will be a fun one to watch. The Rugby Championship, an abridged version this year with the Rugby World Cup on. So it was, like I said, shortened. South Africa won it, which was good for us as New Zealand fans here in New Zealand, because, you know, there's a curse on the Rugby Championship and you're not able to win the Rugby World Cup if you win the Rugby Championship. So as New Zealanders, we kind of breathed a collective sigh of relief that we didn't win the Rugby Championship, because we knew automatically that ruled South Africa out from winning the Rugby World Cup, which was good. They managed to get a draw here in New Zealand when we were kind of trying to get revenge for the previous year where they'd beaten us here. So yeah, Rassie seems to have pretty good record over here in New Zealand. But the game that sticks out is the Aussies gave the All Blacks an absolute hiding, 47 points to 26. That was crazy. I mean, sure, Scott Barrett got red carded fairly early. But the Aussies were playing well before that red card. I mean, it wouldn't have been that much of a shellacking if he hadn't got red carded. But I still think the Aussies on that night were looking the business. So, yeah, man, that's not often the All Blacks get done like that. So that was a real eye-opener. And it's, as a New Zealand fan, not that enjoyable, but it was just such a wow moment. And then I was so keen to see how the next game would go between the two teams, because that's how do you bounce back from that? And the Aussies they're gonna have the mental edge over the All Blacks. How's it going to play out? Bledisloe Cup, the Aussies could win it, because I mean it wasn't technically part of the Rugby Championship that next game, because as I said the tournament already finished, but we still had to play them in Bledisloe too. And the All Blacks went and won at 36-0. I was at that game as well. That was, again, just one-sided. It was a bit of a letdown. Even though I still wanted the All Blacks to win and retain the Bledisloe, I wanted it to be close, and it wasn't at all. So that was a bit of a, letting air a bit of a balloon, that one. So, but yeah, South Africans won the comp, which was the first time in a while for them too. And then, we had some warm-up games followed by the Rugby World Cup. Again, you knew South Africa wasn't going to win it when they lost in the pool stage, so they doubled down on the curses thing. You lose a game, you definitely can't win the Rugby World Cup, and then you've lost the Rugby Championship. Well, you've won the Rugby Championship, so you can't go in and win the Rugby World Cup. And then South Africa went and won the Rugby World Cup. That was an awesome awesome series from the Springboks. They did just unbelievably well. They dominated teams. They took out Japan, who were flying high. And yeah, in that final against England. I mean, England had smashed New Zealand in the semi, and New Zealand had smashed Ireland, and then in the final it seemed to kind of trickle down, because South Africa did a pretty good job over England. In the end, it was a pretty convincing scoreline. But yeah, I mean, there are other good moments. Like I said, Japan topped the pool, which was amazing. Uruguay beat Fiji, which was crazy. So yeah, there were a lot of cool games in that Rugby World Cup. It was overall pretty entertaining. It was pretty gutting. I've talked about my letdowns. Did I talk about my letdown game of the Champions Cup? Not really, just some of the lopsided games. But the one for the World Cup was just the cancelled games. It was such a disappointing thing that they had to cancel, especially Namibia and Canada. That was the only chance for those teams to realistically get a win. They were pumped for it, and they didn't get to play. Obviously, Italy would have been nice to give Parise one last game as well. Not to be. England, France would have been interesting as well, but yeah. Good the Canadian guys got out there and helped out with some of the cleanup efforts for the Typhoon, which was obviously not something you can mess with, so it had to be done, but yeah, it was just a bit deflating. But still, it was a hell of a World Cup. And I can say this, because I notice it with Super Rugby, I'd like to see someone else get a win. Not the same team every time. I kind of appreciate that someone else took the title off the All Blacks. We've had it for a while, so it's time for somebody else to have a turn. So I can kind of appreciate that as well. And that third place game for the All Blacks fans was kind of a sweeter way to end it than maybe losing a final. But anyway, that was the year 2019 in rugby, at least on this channel and some of the main competitions. Do let me know what you guys are looking forward to for 2020. And also let me know what kind of your favourite moments were from 2019, because there's a lot. I'm sure I've forgotten some when I was just trying to rack my brain for some of the moments from 2019. There were a few things that I read that I hadn't remembered consciously, so they're already kind of starting to fade. So it is the way of things with so many games on. But yeah, cheers guys. Have a happy new year. Safe evening if you're going out. I've already taken the kids out to the beach today, so I'm absolutely knackered. I'm going to have a very early night. I will be well in bed before midnight. So yeah, but you guys who are going out, take care, enjoy the night, everything in moderation, and yeah, I will see you guys in the new year. Cheers guys, see you later.